and you've had a lovely week in franchising. I know I have. Lots of exciting things happening. I look forward to hearing all the things that have gone on in your worlds. Um, so, where do we start? We always start by introducing the show, what it's all about, why we do it, and those sorts of things. So, the franchise show is, as you know, and as you can imagine, about franchising. Sort of gives it away, the title, but it's not just for franchisees and franchisors. It's for anybody who's passionate and enthusiastic about the industry. It's for entrepreneurs, it's for franchisees, it's for franchisors, people looking into whether they can franchise their business, people looking into investing into a franchise business, or people that just have some curiosity about the industry. So we're hoping through conversations to inspire some thought and some curiosity around the topic of franchising. So what do? Each week we take a new topic and we have some wonderful guests to talk about that topic. This week, the topic is quite simply new to franchising. So we're going to hopefully look into the sort of questions you might want to ask when you are approaching the subject of franchising. What people who have never even heard of franchising might think of it. And perhaps a deeper delve into the subject if you're potentially a new franchisor or a new franchisee, thinking what questions should you ask. So with that, I'd like to introduce my two lovely guests today. We have the wonderful Chad Harrison and Michael Hutchins from Authority Brands, and they are authority on the subject, like what I did there, you see. So it's great pleasure to have you guys on the show. Before we welcome all the lovely people that are joining us today in the audience, I'd just like to say that the show is always audience driven. It drives our conversation. So let us know your thoughts, stories of when you were new in franchising, advice you'd give to other people when they're coming into the industry. And I will try and recognize everybody as they do that. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Chad, first to make an introduction to yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Harvey. Thank you for having us on, and pleasure to meet the audience. I work with alongside Michael Hutchins here with Authority Brands, 1 Hour Heating and Air, and I've been in franchising myself. I have a restaurant background, management, sales. Um, Much shorter than Michael, probably about 3.5 years now. But I would say within that time frame, it definitely crammed quite a bit of information. Just because you surround yourself with the right kind of people, you gain the right kind of information.
I know
Um,
what you mean.
yeah, yeah. And so, Michael, and then the rest of the group that we work with is just a phenomenal group. But from my end, I mean, I love the business. I love the opportunity, especially as you mentioned, Harvey. Someone on the very front end, and then someone even that understands franchises, may even have some and just looking to expand. Um, but yeah, pleasure to be here.
Great. Thanks very much, Chad. And over the same question to you, Mike, just a little introduction to yourself before we begin.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having Chad and I on your show. And my name's Michael Hutchins, and currently I am the franchise manager for 1 Hour Heating and Air over at Authority Brands. And I have a 20 plus year career within franchising. I love franchising. I love working with entrepreneurs. I've been an individual producer. I've, developed and led multiple teams, represented, multiple brands, have a strong history in growing businesses. But I am a big fan of the home services now with Authority Brands, and Authority Brands has really grown quite quickly, since it launched in 2017. We are a $2 billion a year company now, all brands, we want to own the home inside and out. And Chad and I, have a great working relationship. And last year we had a record year, lead authority brands with new development, same thing the year prior. And this year we're off to a strong start. And I take a lot of pride in seeing people, being a small part of helping people get into business for themselves, and really just kind of, I'm headed to a conference next month, but getting with all of our owners and just being updated on their stories, how lives have changed. Maybe,
That's really interesting, actually, what you
Yes,
just
sir.
said there, the stories and how lives have changed. I think that's something that we should, in fact, I'm going to write that one down, because that's something that I think that we should touch on and give a few experiences of, because that's just what franchising can do, can't it? It can change life, and it certainly creates some stories. So yeah, thanks so much for that introduction. Fantastic to hear that. Before we get too deep into the conversation today, I just want to recognize everybody that's joined us early on. So we have the wonderful and the very wise Simon Wise. Another good one I've done there. He loves that joke. Simon is an expert in franchise recruitment, staff recruitment. So if anyone is looking for fantastic staff, always speak to Simon. We have the wonderful Kelly Steinecker here. Kelly's a good friend of mine. She has a show following this one at 1:11 Eastern, 6:11 good old UK time, and she talks to some wonderful people about their journeys, and her show's called The Awesome Journey. We have a LinkedIn user here saying hello. I'm not sure who that is, so in your next message, let us know and we will recognize you. We have the wonderful Kevin Ayres here. Kevin is an expert in franchise video and photography. He's been a guest on the show in the past. Great to have your thoughts on when you were new into franchising, advice you'd give people if they are new in franchising, but it's great to have you here. Kevin is saying that it's reminding him of a sketch with John Cleese, Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett. Very good. And I think he has given a YouTube link to this, so we can all enjoy that afterwards. Thank you, Kevin. He said he couldn't resist, of course. And we got a couple more people before we get into this. So we've got Johnny Joseph, and he's from Los Angeles, City of Angels, isn't it? I think. That's it. So it's great to have you here, Johnny. Johnny is a franchise audit specialist. He's going to be on the show in 2 weeks today. Topic, don't worry, it's just a franchise audit. So that's going to be a fun episode. We've got Kevin here. Who's he's saying I think he's saying because I'm looking down like that, and I think it's because we're going down in order of height. He's saying that because he's a video expert, so he's going to, isn't he? So great. So I'm going to come back to Simon's comment in a second. Just want to recognize 2 more people, and then we are there for now. So we have Jitin. Jitin is going to be on the show next week, in fact. And Jitin was a franchisee age 22. So we're going to be talking about being young and being in franchising with Jitin. And we have Langdrum here as well. Lovely to have you here, Langdrum. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And we have somebody new here, Kim Woods, as well. So fantastic to have you here, Kim. Now, so that's recognized everybody here. Let me take a breath. And let's have a look at this comment by Simon, because this is a great one. Chad, you're relatively new to franchising. what have you learned so far? Good question.
Yeah.
What's been some of your take homes and your learnings?
Yeah, that's a great question, Simon, too. What I've learned, and the first thing that comes to mind is again to what Harvey said, what Mike mentioned earlier, is just the change, the transformation, or whether it be one person, married couple, they come in for the first time to learn about franchising. And then the story again, as you mentioned earlier, the story that we have after they become that franchisee, and just the excitement, and then throughout the process too, it's just that's what I think I've learned is just the excitement of the conversation with somebody that's whether new to franchising or just getting into the business. That conversation is exciting, and I wasn't aware of you know understood that folding until you're in it. Changing lives, and definitely an exciting part of our business.
No, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks for asking that. Perhaps we're going to go to another comment here. Just quickly read this one out. Hello to the Franchise Show, Chad and Michael. I'm Kim Woods. I'm Franchise Development Manager for Color World Painting. Chad and Michael are great guests. Well, look at that. Lovely compliment for you already by Kim Woods. Well, looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Kim, about when you were first into franchising and any advice that you might have. Very quickly, just want to recognize John LeBurn. Good evening, all. Well, good evening to you. Or good morning, wherever you are. I had a question actually for you, Mike. I was listening the other day to someone trying to describe franchising to someone who had never heard of it. Or someone who was very, very inexperienced, never had any experience with it. How do you go about describing franchising to someone who's not in the world of franchising?
Okay, that's a great question. I mean, to break it down probably as simply as possible, I have phrased it this way before. It's like bowling with bumpers. So, you're paying for your franchisor's, GPS system. So that's what you're going to want to follow. It's been designed to save you both time and money. So again, following the system is really a key attribute, no matter for success, no matter what brand you may partner with.
That's a great answer to that. I mean, I often say to people when they ask what they're buying in terms of franchising, is I say that you're buying time, and you're buying somebody else's mistakes, but particularly buying time, because if any passionate entrepreneur can start their own business, but it takes a long time, it takes a lot of effort, and they're going to make mistakes along the way. You go with a franchise and you're getting that proven model, and you're buying somebody else's mistakes, and you're leaping ahead in time. What do you think of that, Chad, as a statement? Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one individual I was talking to put it that way, saying, you know, it's saving the time, the investment and the opportunity, um, leaping 5 years ahead. I think was exactly what he said. Where it puts him, that where if he started from scratch, learning, getting his own systems in place, training, processes, marketing, everything's there. And you start, as opposed to A, you start on point D, and opportunity, and then of course the opportunity for the growth and the scale up, and that process. I mean, 5-year business plan is put into place and so forth. I mean, we even have on our end kind of the exit plan. I mean, the idea of the exit plan, okay, 10, 15, 20 years, you plan to retire, 5 years, whatever that might be, you transition, you pass it off to your son, whatever, again, so you sell the business. So that's something too that I think we come across, is that exit plan isn't always thought of as well too. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's something that I talk about often, because when you know what the end game is, or where that exit point is going to come in, then the advice and the plan that you put into place is altered accordingly to that exit strategy. So it's always refreshing to hear, and I think it's something that should be talked about. New prospective franchisees should be asking the questions, and franchisors should be encouraged to discuss it as well. So I think it's a great point to always bring up on the show as something to think about, something to discuss, something to consider. Let's bring up another couple of comments here. So we've got Disha. Hello, Harvey, Chad, Michael, and all franchise friends. I'm here for the first time. Well, look, welcome to the Franchise Show to you. Trying to understand the Franchise Show. Well, I hope you do. I hope you get some value from it. Ask any questions that you are keen to ask, and we will do our best to discuss those live on air. I also want to recognize the fact that we've got Michael Carr here. Great to have you, Michael. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Share your experiences, if you can, of any advice or any stories. I like what Mike said earlier about the stories that you get in franchising. We can learn a lot through stories, and I think that they're really important. Let's have a quick look at what John has put here. Franchising for me would be described as a fully packaged solution with a proven framework and blueprint. Yes. Yeah. I mean, Mike, you pretty much described franchising as that. Would you have anything else to add to that particular comment? But I think that wraps it up what franchising is, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What Chad said, it accelerates things. I mean, it gives you the ability to start on third base, but it's what you're buying is a system. And, and again, it's all designed to save you time, money, and help you penetrate your market, learn the industry at a much accelerated pace. And you have all the support. You do not need to be an expert in, for example, recruitment or marketing or finance or, management, operations. You're going to have your coaches from your franchisor assisting you really through onboarding and, again, on an ongoing basis in every aspect of running and growing your business. So I am a fan and a true believer of franchising. I have seen, many people, get into business for themselves. And again, very happy with their decision, gone on to, to create rather, large businesses, for themselves and their families.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. I completely agree. And it resonates with me when you say that you don't have to be an expert, right? Because what you're doing is you're surrounding yourself with experts. It's much better to do that than be the expert. So I love that. You're buying into that expertise and that support. And running a business can sometimes be quite a lonely thing. If anyone's been an entrepreneur and started a business, you can be surrounded by people, but it can still be quite a lonely journey, and you get a lot of support and people around you. So yeah, great point. Love that. We've got a few more comments come up here. So I want to recognize these and bring this into the conversation if we can. So we've got the amazing and wonderful Donald Cohen, who's joined us. Don Cohen has taught me everything that I know about LinkedIn Live. So if you want your own LinkedIn Live show and you like what I do, reach out to Don, because he's got a program that will help you do it. That's how I learn. So I always big up Don Cohen, and I thank him a lot. So great to have you here, Don. Let's have a look at what Kim has put here. And again, Kim, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for putting such lengthy and fantastic comments. I got into franchising in 1999. Wow. I
Mhm.
love franchising. My advice is to dive right in and to network as much as possible. The franchise is large and small at the same time, and people are always willing to share their experience and advice, good and bad, take advantage of their knowledge. Chad, what do you make of that as a comment? I love that comment. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to pick out of that. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah. We have such a diverse group, ranging in experience, different sectors, industries, and it's just the opportunity, like what Kim's saying, is to network, to really begin to open up those connections, especially as we can use these platforms that we have available to us to even be more efficient. And it is so vital, vital to it, just every business that you're in, but more so to this one too, because it is just a group that likes to network. It is a group that wants to connect and have that conversation on how one, whether it can better their business or franchise or their knowledge of the business.
Mm.
Oh yeah, agreed 100%.
Yeah, I think you're right, particularly about a group of people that like to connect and share information together. You know, I've been in the hospitality sector for a long while, and franchising is definitely one of those groups where there's some great people who do like to help and support one another.
Hmm.
So it's a fantastic industry to be in, and I love that comment. I like the dive right in. You know, I'm not saying you should make a snap decision, but sometimes you've got to be immersed in something in order to be able
Yeah.
to find what those right questions might be.
Hmm.
Um, let's have a look let's have a look at Johnny's comment here. Mike, please share with us how your system ensures it's receiving the correct amount of royalties from your Z's. Ooh, I like the expression Z's. I'm going to start using Z's and Zors now. Mike, it's quite good, isn't it? What do you make of that, Mike, in brief form and in a sort of an outline form?
Sure.
Do
That's a
you
great question. I mean, we are, as the franchisor, partners in revenue. So uh, at 1 hour, we have our own software, Successware, and that is what our franchisees use to generate bids and take payments. And then that is reconciled twice a month, and that's when royalties are paid back to the franchisor. So twice a month, we because our owners generate quite a bit of revenue, so we do it twice a month so that it doesn't become too large of a number. But every 2 weeks a statement is sent out, um, and we just give them time to double check, make sure maybe it wasn't a warranty job, something like that. But then royalties are submitted off of that, and we're looking at the same numbers. We look at the numbers daily with our franchisees.
Great, great. I mean, there's lots of software out there that can help that, and of course, there's lots of experts like Johnny that can help that. Not that he was pitching towards that.
No,
Love you.
absolutely. It's a great question.
It is a
Yeah,
great
it is.
question, and I really enjoyed discussing that one as well. Um, One of the questions I had was, if you're an entrepreneur and you've got a successful business and you're thinking about franchising it, so you're now a business owner at the start of you're new to franchising essentially. What do you think the fundamental elements that you need in order to make your business a franchisable business?
Mm.
And that can go to either of you, whoever fancies answering that.
Well, it takes quite a bit of money to take your business and franchise it. First you're gonna need to create an FDD. You're gonna have to have a path forward. We have at Authority Brands, an emerging brands division. So we will take, like, Woofies, for example, is a great example. The founder, I think, had her location, uh, started to franchise it, got up to about four, and then just realized there's a lot more to it. And it does take quite a bit of
Mm,
of money to successfully launch it. and they partnered with Authority Brands, and I think they may have added about 30 locations last year.
Yeah.
But again, it's just being able to, similar to even like the local franchisee, being able to accelerate that growth and take advantage of, their systems, for being a franchisor as well, and onboarding new brands, promoting them, etc.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for answering that. And I think that gives people a bit of sort of food for thought if they're thinking of franchising their own business. It's certainly a complex thing. And I mean, in my experience, going back over the years with QSR hospitality brands that go from sort of 1 or 2 and then are attempting to go to sort of 10 or 20, 30, 50, it becomes a whole different thing, because I think units 1 to 5, you can, if you put in enough time, repeat what you did on units 1 in a sort of diluted way. But that's generally what happens. It starts getting diluted. And that's, I think, when people may turn to scaling their business that way. And, there are certainly lots of people out there that can help you. Let's just have a look at a few more comments that have come in. Simon says franchising is like riding a Zezor. It's very. I like that one. I'm gonna have to use that one. It is a seesaw or a Zezor is definitely its ups and downs, and franchising definitely has its ups and downs. I'm definitely going to use that. It's nothing like this show for stealing people's funny ideas. Right, let's have a look at what Hutchins got to say here. Franchising is all about having proven methods, models, systems, and processes, whilst being supported by a network of like-minded individuals who are all faced with the same challenges and rewards. Whilst new franchisees in the learning phase as the same time passes by, franchisors learn the most from franchisees to keep on top of their game and hone their ways of doing things better. Yeah, I like that. Something I was going to ask you guys about here is sort of support groups that are made up of experienced and less experienced franchisees. What's your view on that, Chad, in terms of those support groups?
I had just spoke with one of our franchisees. He's got a large operation, and you have our franchisees that are just entering, the brand and coming in, getting the training, getting ready to ramp up, and he is such an asset because he's at that point where they want to be. So how do you get there? It's what we call in our, again, the discovery process, learning about a franchise, the model and the processes. And in that is the validations. The validation is the opportunity to talk to anybody in the network, franchisees. And as you have that validation, you begin to make those connections and those contacts, and you have the resource and group after you become a franchisee to continue to access them. For instance, they have a group that they text. So there's about maybe 30, 40 franchisees that'll be on this text. Hey, quick question. Got a question about this process. Got a question about this job. So it's just a great line of communication between them, especially again, for the franchisees on the very front end of the process, with the franchisees that have been, the multi-million-dollar operations.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer, and I think there are pluses and minuses for those groups, but generally speaking, if you can get a group of the phrase I like in here is like-minded individuals. If you can get a group of like-minded individuals, there's an argument to. What's your sort of view on if you've got, I spoke before about new franchisees and experienced franchisees. What about if you've got successful, high-achieving franchisees and some that are struggling? Do you think by putting them together in a group, it pulls the struggling ones up, or do you think it dampens down the ones that are succeeding? do you think that they should be sort of in two groups supporting one another? What's your thoughts on that?
I host monthly town hall meetings, and I have all of our owners participate. Everyone, I want to create the culture where everyone is sharing best practices, everyone is growing together. Not everyone's going to be, in the one percenters, who are just, some people are more driven than others. Some people are happy, with one territory, for example, managing a small staff. Others want to take over the world. So, everyone is different, but uh, you know, existing owners, tenured owners can learn from newer people. They're using different technologies for, maybe local marketing, things like that. Other owners, have experiences that they can share with the newer people. But I think getting everyone together, um, it shows new people what the potential is, and if they want to grow, as Chad said, what's the roadmap to get there. But it also, allows newer owners to share, things that they're doing that, maybe older, like not older, but more seasoned owners, they get too busy sometimes. Like they're on autopilot. Things are going well, but you can always continue to learn. And again, I get everyone together once a month to share best practices.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, best practices is what it's all about. And where do we get best practices from? From learning together and sharing experiences and, seeing what is working better than something else. So I think the benefits outweigh any disadvantages by having that sort of group. So yeah, great. Thanks so much for answering that so well and so concisely. Simon has put here, what support should franchisees expect? And is this fundamental to their success in business? I think sometimes, my thoughts are, sometimes a new prospective franchisee can think that they will just get everything done for them and that they don't have to do anything. They're being given that success. But really, you're letting someone use a system and a proven model you've got in place. You are supporting them, but of course, they've got to do their own hard work, and within that model, be successful. What's your thoughts on that, Chad?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, again, back to that discovery process, that process of learning about the brand, the franchise model, and how to run and operate. That's where, on Mike's end, we begin to have those conversations, like, and make sure that this is the right thing for you, that you have to understand that, you're going to be definitely putting in some time, whether it be some marketing on your end or just the recruitment, the hiring side of it, and just driving the growth of the brand. I mean, you can give the plan forward for someone to be successful, but they have to certainly enact it. And the operational support is there. But again, I know Mike dives so much deeper into that on his end. What's your thoughts, Mike?
You want to set people up for success. So, initially, obviously, they have to have the financial wherewithal to do this, but it's also setting the proper expectations,
Yeah.
time commitment. We do not offer full absentee. We are not going to manage their business for them. We support owner operator and semi absentee. They're going to have different responsibilities, and there's going to be a different amount of time allocated. But during their discovery process, I want to make sure that they have a solid understanding of what their role is going to be, what their responsibilities are going to be, what support we're going to offer, and just, and do that. Because one of the I think when franchisees, when you talk to them about, are you happy with the decision that you made, a lot of it goes back to setting the proper expectations. I mean,
Yeah.
they obviously want to make money, but they want to have a good idea of what they're getting into and how much time is going to be needed and so on, in order for them to accomplish, kind of their targeted goals.
That was one of those moments where I'm just nodding along like that because I really agree with what you've just said there.
Yeah.
Taking that, making sure those expectations are set right, taking that time to get to know that franchisee. You talked a little bit about the discovery process. Do you think there's a right and wrong amount of time to put people through that process of where you're getting to know them, they're getting to know your brand before they make a decision? Is there such a thing as them making that decision too quickly? What's your thinking on that?
Again, I want everyone to have all of the information needed to make an educated decision. I am not going to rush people through the process. I want them to open strong and be on the other side of validation calls, after they open. There's a tempo that I think you should go through. And as a franchisor, the process will weed out people that may not necessarily really be fully engaged, but going through that process, and I typically, take about 5 weeks to go through the different steps in order for someone to have all of that information. After that, I am confident that they have a very good understanding of the business, what's required of them. They've had a chance to speak with other owners and validate, attend a meet your team day, really everything that needs to be accomplished. But, if someone needs more time, that's fine. But it's not going to drag on to several months. Let me get, back to you.
Yeah.
That they're not going to be the right person. Someone, as we have said, you got to hit the ground running. If you're not, if you don't, if I don't sense that you're fully committed to this, I'm not going to offer you the franchise. I want people, it's okay to be nervous. I mean, it's a new business venture, but they should be excited and really want to get going and learn everything they can and get things going. And if I don't sense that, even if someone has the financial wherewithal to do it, I will take a pass on them because they're going to be sitting on the sidelines, kind of to what we alluded to earlier, waiting for things to happen. And you do have to roll up your own, sleeves and get going once you sign that agreement with us.
Yeah, I think so. Well, one thing that I liked about what you said is making sure that you discuss the amount of time that you're going to be putting into the business. I always think it's really important, whether you're going to be in the everyday managing that business, whether you've got 3 or 4 hours a day, 1 day a week, or whether you are looking to manage it remotely. It's a very important question. Before we get any deeper, we've got a few more people that I want to recognize. We have the legend that is Joe Caruso here, and I'm sure you guys know Joe. I'm going to name drop his wonderful show, Franchise Chat, on a Friday. It's an audio show. I'm regularly in the audience of that. I get a lot of value from it. I always love his show. You need to check out his show. Anyway, let's have a look. That's enough promotion, Joe. He's put there, I hang out with like-minded people and also learn from people who have a different mindset that provides a diversity of thought. I love that, Joe. I think that's brilliant comment to make, because you get a different perspective. You can be set in your ways and too blinkered if you just surround yourself with people with the same thought process. Sometimes you think, oh, wow, yeah, that's a good way of thinking of that. So I love that, Joe. And this is what this show's all about, right? It's about inspiring a new way of thinking about something. And you can do that by surrounding yourself with people with different mindsets as well. Let's have a little look here. Hold on. Then we'll try that one. So you can see it's live when I do that, can't you? That's in connection with the wonderful Paul Sims, who's here. And this is a good question by Paul. Paul's a good supporter of what I do on a Sunday, actually, where I help people on a Sunday. So great to have you here, Paul. But Paul's question is, how old is it too old to start a franchise? That's a very good question. Is there an upper or a lower limit to that? I'm having a couple of conversations actually. I've got a student of franchising coming on who's 18, 19 years old. But the other end of the scale, what's your thinking on the right time in life, and if there's a time where perhaps it's not ideal for you in terms of franchising? I think, if you've got the enthusiasm, the motivation, and you tick all of the boxes, then go for it if you can. What's your thought?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
I think it depends on what brand they're looking to get into. For myself, at 1 Hour, we support startups as well as conversions. So, I have contractors approach me that, are interested in converting over to 1 Hour, but it depends on, what are their goals? How much time are they going to be able to give us? Because if we're not going to have enough time, for example, to really help someone build a business that that they can sell to kind of provide for their retirement, it's not going to be worth it for them to come in and go through the changes, because we won't have enough time to really accomplish what they're looking to do. But I have people that are and I'm not a spring chicken any longer, but that are older than I am, that have been successful in other types of business, and they're kind of serial entrepreneurs, and they want to start another business, and they've got the financial strength and they have the wisdom. They've kind of done it before, and they're able to achieve great things. So it really depends on, I think, the business that they're looking to brand, franchise with, what they're trying to accomplish, and then you make a decision together with that particular candidate if this is really the right opportunity for them.
I think that's a great answer to that question. And as with anything that you're looking at trying to make a decision whether you're going to do, you need to have that discussion as to whether it's going to be right, looking at all of those time frames. We discussed earlier on today about exit strategies. Well, it's the same there. Your exit strategy might be 5 years in that case, and you then, I like what you said there, Mike, about the fact that it depends on the brand. It depends on whether you're buying maybe a going concern, or there's lots of factors. But a great question, because again, it's something that's thought-provoking. It's something that people are going to consider, and I think that deserves an episode of its own, that topic. But thanks again for being here, Paul, and let's have a look at something here from Jitten. So Jitten's put, Chad and Michael, what were the biggest drivers for you to become franchisors? I know obviously you're representing that, but perhaps the biggest drivers for you to become involved in the business of franchising, maybe a better way of posing that question. And at what stage did you have a light bulb moment? Okay, well, look, so I guess that is coming on to sort of, how did you get into franchising, make the decision that franchising was a career path perhaps for you? Or have either of you had experiences of actually being the franchisor? Have either of you actually been a franchisor in the past at any point? I don't think you have, but it's a great question. It's a great question because it's discussing when you have that, as you put there, that light bulb moment where you think, the way I could scale this business is with franchising, and I wonder where that comes and how that comes. But, again, a great thought-provoking question. Look forward to getting into that perhaps on another show when we have a franchisor there. So great question, Jitten. Let's have a look at what Joe is saying. There is a great variety in franchising, since it is not one industry, but many different businesses, channels, models that use franchising method of expansion, and they are great differences across industries for franchisors in how they operate. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Joe. I mean, I think one point that I would really like to pick up on is the different channels and models. You know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking of expanding your business, why should you choose franchising as the model of expansion? Would either of you like to take that as a question?
Are you looking at, I'll use 1 hour as an example. So I, again, as I stated earlier, I work with existing contractors who, want to convert their business, as well as entrepreneurs, who are looking to, create a startup within the industry. So why would an existing contractor want to partner with 1 hour and pay us 6% royalties? So there's several reasons. We talked about, it being an expert in every aspect of this business. A lot of these contractors are still in the truck. That's how they pay their bills, take care of their families, and they are scared to take the leap to working on the business instead of, working in the business. So coming on board with 1 hour, it gives them that support system that is going to allow them to get out of the vehicle, hire another technician to replace what they're doing, and then they can focus on recruitment and marketing and all the other things that you need in order to grow. Also, they may be even the big fish in their small pond in their local market, but they are going to be able to tap into the purchasing power of 1 hour, the market leader in the industry. And it's going to, give them access to substantial discounts on the front end, rebates on the back end for really anything that they need to purchase, just driving even greater profitability.
Yeah.
We have the training, Success Academy, that's award winning, mirrors that of any accredited trade school. So they're just going to have access to things that they just wouldn't be able to replicate. And even if they could afford to do it, it would take them, a long time to be able to do it. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I'm going to add to that if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at ways to scale your business, right? Franchising from an entrepreneur's perspective is potentially a way to do that with slightly less capital. If you're organically growing your business, starting up new ones each time, yes, you've got to prove the model, but you can pass across a little bit of that to that if you do it right. And that's a big if, and there's lots of questions within that, but it can certainly be a way to scale a business in a more efficient and time and money efficient way, definitely. So a great question, another thought-provoking one. We're going to start to draw to an end, because we like to make this around about the sort of 50 to 55 minute mark. So I'm just going to go through the final few comments before we finish up. So there's another comment here from Joe. Kentucky Fried Chicken, as a franchisor, had Colonel Sanders founding that famous brand at age 62. A great point, actually, Joe. Really good point. And there's some fantastic examples of people doing amazing things throughout their life. So I think I'd really say that there isn't an upper limit for franchising. If things are right, if the situation is right, the brand's right, if you're ticking all the boxes for that particular brand in terms of who you are, what you want to do, and alignment with that brand, then a conversation is always possible. So I think it's a great topic, a great point of discussion, and I thank you again for being here, Joe. You're a legend. So we've got We've got a couple more here. So we've got Kim. I agree with Michael. Understand the candidate's succession plan would be very important to determine if age should be a factor. Are they planning on renewing the agreement or having their children take over? That's a great point, actually. Yeah. How, I mean, we're trying to do this one a bit quick, but have you had a lot of experiences in your time of people wanting to hand things across to family members as part of an exit strategy?
Yep. And actually, the conversation would even start in that, this is the direction I plan on going. Okay, now tell me about your brand and how you support. So, I mean, it actually, in some cases, starts out that way.
Mm,
Yep.
And
That's
actually, it's
initial
quite a
thought.
good, yeah, it's quite a good way of doing it as well, because you might have someone who's got all of the experience, the capital to do it. They start it, they get it going. It's someone that the younger relative trusts, and then
Yep.
can watch how they do it for a number of years, and then and then take over. So that's a really, really good point there, Kim, and thanks again so much for being here. Well, look, I'm going to start to wrap things up now. Before we sort of do all of the final things, I just want to give each of you a sort of a moment to round things up, and a very brief moment to tell people how they can get hold of you. So I'll start with you, Michael. So if you could just sort of round up your thoughts on today, how you felt about it, and how people can get hold of you if they would like to have a chat.
Sure. Well, I wanted to thank you again, for the opportunity to be on your show, and what a great group of, people that joined us today. I mean, obviously, I can tell from the questions, a lot of very seasoned, experienced people within the franchise industry. So it's nice to see people, kind of, participating in this. And I'm happy to, talk about franchising in general. Doesn't have to be brand specific. I love franchising. You could reach me at mhutchins at authoritybrandsllc.com. And again,
Absolutely perfect. Thank you. That's fantastic. And the same to you, Chad. Just a summary of how you felt about the show, and final sort of summing up together with how people can get hold of yourself.
Yeah, I look forward to keying in on future shows. I've actually jotted down a few names of individuals that were responding that I could connect with them afterwards. But just a great show, a great opportunity. Like Mike said, just again, for us to all pass ideas and to gain experience from one another. And just very similar to Mike's email, C Harrison at authoritybrandsllc.com, and I can connect you with Mike too. But love to have that conversation and about franchising and opportunities. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Harvey.
No, you're absolutely welcome. And I'd like to finish up by saying thank you to both of you for being on the show and sparing your time, and having the discussion with us today. As ever, it's been a wonderful, free-ranging conversation, lots of inspiring topics of thought and conversational pieces for people to have a think about when they are new to franchising and thinking about what things maybe they should consider and ask. So again, it's been a lovely conversation with you guys, and I'd like to absolutely thank our wonderful community. We are all one big community here. When we have these discussions, it is sharing information with like-minded people, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the comments there or you're on the screen here. It's a conversation we have together. And this show wouldn't be this show without the wonderful people in the audience. So I thank you so much for being here, for adding such valuable comments. And I hope to see you next week. Next week, and I was frantically flicking through my paper diary because I've got a paper one. Look, see. And next week we have Jitin here. And Jitin is going to be talking about, the topic is the youngest franchisee. And he was a franchisee age 22. So it's a great topic of conversation, and really looking forward to getting into that next week. So hopefully everyone can join us next Tuesday, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until then, have an amazing week, everybody.